Hi everybody, welcome to another tutorial. Today, based on a recent viewer request, I'm going to set up a minimal base install of Linux Debian Stable, and on top of that solid base, configure the really cool Regolith Desktop Environment, right after this. Regolith claims to be a slim, streamlined, productivity-first tiling environment built on the i3 window manager and a GNOME flashback session for system management. This sounds pretty exciting to me, so I've downloaded the latest stable ISO and spun up a kernel virtual machine to take a closer look. On the BIOS boot menu, I'll select option 2 for the DVD ISO, and for my eyes, I will need to use the accessible installer menu, dark contrast. We'll do a simple text install. Language is English. Location is United States. Keyboard is American English. So it's loading additional components. And now it's configuring the network. IPv6 autoconfig will fail, but IPv4 will succeed with DHCP on the local secure network. The host name for the system shall be Debian1. Debian, get it? No domain name, we'll leave it blank for this tutorial. Root password, I'll enter it once and I'll enter it twice. Full name for the new user will be Stephen, of course. Username for the account will be Stephen. I'll enter my password, again twice for verification. My locale would be Pacific time zone, US Pacific. For the disk partition, we'll skip these guided ones and do a manual, a simple single partition install of minimal Debian. So I'm going to go ahead and select the free space on the virtual disk 1, and we'll create a new partition here. We'll use the maximum space, which is 68.7 gigabytes. Name for this partition shall be Debian. And the label, we'll also call it Debian. There we can identify it in the grub boot menu. All right, we're done setting up this partition. So it's going to be just ext4 formatted. So we're finished partitioning and write to disk. No swap because we're using ZRAM today. I'll show how that's done in a minute. So we'll confirm, write the changes to disks, or disk in this case. There we go, installing the base system. And scanning installation media finds the label DVD. We'll know we won't scan that. We'll use a network mirror. I'll try to find a fast local mirror. So I'm in the United States, of course. I found that Oregon State University Open Source Lab is very fast for my location, so I'll select that. No proxy information, I'll leave it blank. It looks like we're off to the races here. So this will take a while. We'll need to install, do a software selection for what we want to install. So we do everything unchecked here except for SSH server and the standard system utilities. That's the bare minimum installation of Debian. All right, selecting and installing software. We'd like to install the grub bootloader on the primary drive since we don't have any other operating systems available. Make sure you check that before you click yes. Device for bootloader installation is DevVDA, which is the main virtual disk for this virtual machine. All right, so that installs everything. let's finish the installation. I edited out most of this so you guys won't be bored. So let's boot to the freshly installed system. There we go. And it's installed. Very minimal installation. Logged in as Steven. Let's check. The RAM usage is 73 megabytes. Very light indeed. As installed, 1.4 gigs on the root partition. So let's become root with su dash, and let's edit with nano the etc apt sources.list. I'd like to remove the CD-ROM entry here, since we won't be using that again. All right, and we write it out. So apt update shows all packages are up to date. Apt install, we'd like to install GPG and sudo for the next steps. There we go, that's done. Next, let's user mod and then add the group sudo to the account Steven. So let's exit from root and let's add sudo to our group list. And there it is with ID, you can check. Good, so sudo should be functional now. So now let's wget -q capital O, not 0, https://regolith-desktop.org/regolith.key, and let's pipe it to, and then we do a new line here, gpg-d armor, pipe it to sudo t/user share keyrings regolith-archive-keyrings, or keyring rather, .gpg, and we'll redirect it to dev null. So these instructions that I'm going to be typing here come straight from the Regolith website that we will be looking at in a bit. So next they recommend on Debian echo deb quotes in square brackets arch equals AMD64 signed by user share keyrings regolith archive keyring.gpg, close square brackets, new line. And on the second line here, HTTPS, this is the repository for Regolith. It's regolith-debian-bullseye-AMD64. You can also do ARM64 here as well. Bullseye main. And we'll pipe it to, and then we'll do a new line here. Sudo t etc apt sources.list.d, and the repository file will be regolith.list. There we go. So that's putting it in the sources list. Let's check it with cat. Make sure it's formatted properly. Yep. So we've just added the repo for Regolith Desktop. So next step, sudo apt update. And so he pulls in the new repository, and sudo apt install Regolith-desktop and hit enter. So that pulls in hundreds of packages and their dependencies. So we'll hit yes to proceed. I'll edit out most of this. So over 800 packages. That'll fatten up this install quite a bit. All right, it's done. Let's clear the terminal. It's sudo apt upgrade. Make sure we're got the latest packages. Looks like we do. Next, df-h shows that we now have a 3 gig as installed system on root. So that's almost, or double rather. So sudo apt install regolith-look-star. So that installs all the Regolith themes that they provide. So we can do some basic theming here without having to edit too many files. All right, that's done. Clearing the screen. Let's sudo apt install some accessories, some utilities. i3xrocks -focused -window -name. That will show the name on the bar. i3xrocks rotification rather. That's a notification utility. i3xrocks -info. i3xrocks -app -launcher, and also i3xrocks -memory, and xrocks rather -battery. There we go. All these packages are listed in the install tutorial on the Regolith website. So, in addition, we want sudo apt install Regolith compositor. We want a compositor here that they recommend, which is PyCom-glx. So that's compatible with the most hardware you may have. Again, I would test this on a virtual machine first before doing hardware. Now, let's do a sudo apt install, gee, I can't type today, lightdm as a display manager. And once that's done, let's enable it with sudo systemctl enable lightdm. So that should launch on next boot. Let's sudo apt install zram-tools so we can set up our zram swap to RAM compressed. You can do that, or configure that rather, with echo-e in quotes the algorithm, or algo equals z standard, and then escape new line, and then % equals 60, so we use 60% of the RAM for swap. Sudo, pipe it to sudo t etc default zram swap. Okay. So the 60% refers to the zram swap, not the physical memory. So let's enable the zram swap service and reload, and then reboot. Okay, so here we go, crossing fingers. lightdm launched successfully on Debian 1. And instead of the default X session, which is our backup, we'll choose the Regolith environment. Log in with my username and password. Okay, and we're in the Regolith environment. So here we have Ilya showing us a list of our pre-configured keyboard shortcuts. So you can see a whole bunch of them we'll be using today in this demonstration. All right, so first things first, let's go to Regolith settings and configure some things. First off is power. This is a demonstration, so I'll turn off power saving and also automatic suspend. Next, we'll configure the screen resolution. We have 1920 by 1080 for this 1080p YouTube video. Keep those changes. It makes the fonts a bit small, so we'll fix that with going to accessibility and turning on large text. Here you can click about. So this is the Regolith Desktop Environment logo, as you can see, running X11 on a KVM virtual machine. Debian GNU Linux Bullseye. All right, let's Mod Shift Q out of here. And let's mod Control L for the look. So we've got different looks here. Let me just open up a couple of terminals. So that's IU. IU dark looks like this. Win Control L Mirage looks like this. IU Mirage. This is what Black Hole looks like. This is default. Yeah, lots of different themes here. Dracula. Groove Box. Oh, that puts the bar on top, as you can see. For this theme, i3 default looks like this. Pretty ugly. I don't think I want to use this. Got a font issue that's easily fixed, but anyway, Lascaux looks like this. Very nice. Neville. And Control Win L. Okay, this looks like that. The Nord, rather. Okay, let's go back to Lascaux. I think that'll work fine for today. All right. Nice desktop wallpaper. So let's open up a terminal with WinEnter. Sudo apt update. Let's make sure we're up to date with everything. Looks like we are. Okay, sudo apt install Firefox-Extended Service Release, or ESR, NeoFetch, GNOME-software, Synaptic, Timeshift, and those are fantastic things to have installed on the system for basic functionality. Won't do too much more of this, just for demonstration purposes. Okay, and those packages are now installed. Next, let's go ahead, since we've got a basic installation done, let's launch Timeshift. You can also do this via the terminal. Run Timeshift as administrator with sudo. Anyway, let's do the basic default configuration of Timeshift. Next, snapshot levels all look good. Home directories are excluded. Setup is complete. Finish. So let's go ahead and create our first base image snapshot. We can roll back should we screw something up. And there it is, Debian 11, our first base system snapshot. All right, we're done with Timeshift. So next, in the terminal, let's take a look at the file system table in etc. So you can see we have a simple partition, ext4. There's also CD-ROM, auto mount media, that's there as well. Okay, we're using kernel 5.10.149, relatively recent. Our install size is now gone up to 7.8 gigs. So NeoFetch shows we have fairly decent memory usage here, 553 megabytes. Not bad at all, not very heavy. All right, let's launch Firefox in Workspace 2. And let's go to the Regolith homepage. It's regolith-desktop.com. And here we go. Very nice, clean homepage. Nice introduction. So it's productivity first. It runs i3, a popular, fast, and configurable tiling window manager. For keyboard-driven workflows, it uses i3 bar, Rawification, GNOME Flashback, and Ilia for the lists that you see in this demonstration. Uses GNOME Flashback session. So it's not as complicated as GNOME Shell for system configuration. So they give instructions for Ubuntu 22.04, 20.04, ARM 64 as well as AMD 64. Debian Bullseye, these are the instructions we use today. Should look familiar. Regolith Linux ISO, so that's pre-configured, pre-installed. So you just install from the ISO. It's based on the 2204 LTS Ubuntu installer image. And yeah, so those were the upgrade instructions, by the way. So this is some bling here that they show for us. Different looks and feels that you can have. Regolith Desktop. They've got a github.org site. So they've got all the repositories. So the Regolith Desktop here repository is the meta package, of course. And look at all the individuals and contributors here. So yeah, this is not a small team. Seems to be well developed and well maintained. So first launch, they give you some simple instructions on the default shortcut keys, key binding viewer, etc., etc. Basic usage. It'll show you how to launch an application, navigate to a window, the window list like Ilya uses. How to launch terminals, switch workspaces, configure system, view key bindings also with Ilya. Ilya is a multi-utility for all kinds of lists here. Manage notifications. Yeah, so here's some more configuration like wallpaper. I mean, just like i3, of which Regolith is based on, you can configure everything. So here you've got the i3 configuration as managed via the package manager. So it does config partials. So instead of .config i3 config, like you may be used to with i3, it does these partial configuration files, and it shows where they're located, and you can edit these to your heart's content. So it talks a little bit about key bindings. Keyboard shortcuts for GNOME are listed separately in the GNOME settings menu. Also, you have the X resources reference, and you've got all these keys that you can use and a description for configuring your environment to your heart's content. It's got pretty much everything here that you can configure. So if you don't like something, modify it. Very nice. So here you've got some release notes. So the most recent release is from October 30th, which is just a few days ago. Sunday, I believe. Very good. So yeah, regularly updated. Here's the build system. So if you want to build your own Regolith, or if you want to build your ISO, all the instructions are on this page. All right. So, very cool. Here's help and discussion. So they use GitHub for that. So a lot of discussion items here. So if you get stuck somewhere or need help or want to contribute somehow with your own tests, this is a great place to do it. So support Regolith. So yeah, contribute to Regolith. So they're asking for $20 donations here. If you like what they do, if you find it useful to you, yeah, go ahead and contribute. I'm not associated with Regolith, so, but yeah, I encourage you to support open source software. More the merrier, that's what I say. So yeah, that's the homepage. So next, let's go and take a look at the files program. So it's GNOME files, I think. Let me eject the Debian CD-ROM here. About files. Yes, 3.38.2. So it's an older files program, but perfectly adequate. Very nicely themed. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, i3 with gaps. Pretty cool. So let's look at Ilya again and look at the running programs here. So you can select, for example, here's the got the Firefox and 2 terminals open. So I select Firefox, select the first terminal, and we're back on workspace 1. So you got bottom left, you got 1, 2, 3 still running. Pretty slick. I think this runs beautifully. Very cool indeed, but even though it uses the i3 window manager with a lot of additions and modifications, I would consider Regolith a mid-weight install. Not as heavy as GNOME or Plasma for certain, but not as light on RAM as your typical window manager either. Still, I believe Regolith is an ideal solution for beginner and advanced users alike who are looking for a quick entry into the world of the i3 window manager without too much fuss. Be sure to check it out for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you did, please smash the like button, share with friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. Be well, have lots of fun, and see you next time.